I seem to start every segment with well and okay, don't I? I've got the all the lower trim rails in the Omega bling trim piece sanded, lightly sanded, and a second coat, and they're drying over there on the long 2x6 right now, so that it's a perfect time to, while they're in the mood. And there's no use in, I can't stress that enough, don't put it off for tomorrow, because it doesn't take that long to do it today. And I'm probably going to spend less than an hour putting the first coat on the rails. So, and the other thing is to make small batches. I got a big cup, but I didn't divvying up the epoxy in the small cups and then pour them into the big one here and mix up. You don't want to make too much at any one time doing this, because this is a little bit slower process, and so you don't want that epoxy to kick in and start turning hot in your hand and then waste a whole bunch of epoxy, because it's not cheap. So just go along. I've been put a little bit here and there as you drag it along, not any one big gob, because especially when you're doing these holes on the gap rail here, it's real easy for the brush to drop a whole bunch of epoxy as it skims over an edge. So just kind of put a little bit in one spot and use that as a little puddle to work out of. Kind of work all sides as you're going along. And if you got some runny, thicker spots, pick it up, take it forward. I can't stress enough how much I love using toothbrushes for epoxy, and especially for this kind of operation, because they can take a pretty severe punishment and not lose hairs all over the place, like an acid brush or a bristle brush that you may have shorted up. And then don't get too carried away. Ahead of yourself, come back and roll out what you've got, even it out. Look for those runs and drips. You're gonna get the runs and drips along in here where it's coming down from the openings, and then you're going to get some on the outside. So come under the rail, put your thing to the outside so you can come in close. Flip it over. Like I said, if you don't wash yourself, you're going to get these little runs coming down out of here and dropping in, and they'll cure before you see that they're there, because you'll walk away and they're still dripping. And then when you come to paint, you'll see you got this little mound there you got to scrape off. Depending on how picky you are on your final product. Be taking this much time to carry, might as well follow through and be careful on everything. So I'm going to go ahead off camera and finish this out tomorrow. Well, it'll cure overnight, even though it's going to be in the well, it's staying warm in the shop. But as winter goes along in your northern climes, you're going to have either shop heat or something to kick it along. The silver tip will cure out in the 40s. Gel Magic will take 2 days. I filled the hole. Remember we were talking about that hole I over-drilled on the skeg? I used the drilled out about the size of a pencil so I could push in the Gel Magic. I probably should have used Easy Fill. It would have been easier to fill, but the Gel Magic in that Utah tube is so easy to dispense just little bits, so I use that. but it takes a couple days at these colder temperatures to cure out. So onward and upward. I'm going to add an addendum to that one I was telling you about on the clamps. These are, I've seen them as cross joint connectors, I've seen them as dowel joints, and they're basically just given different sizes. I've seen them a 1/4 inch diameter, and I've seen them in this 1/2 inch diameter, and then they've got a 5/16 inch bolt through them, and they got a little screw in the end to line them up, but they just fit into the holes that I make. And then I've been using for the clamps for most of the boats that I design a 5-inch 5/16 bolt, all threaded all the way up. It just goes in and lines up with the hole and screws in. And then somebody was asking me about why I have the nylock nut up here. Well, when you clamp down on something and this bolt is compressing whatever it is you're trying to do, these things rotate around because the force, or the clamps down here and the force is right here, they'll rotate around. So you need that nut up here to keep this thing from collapsing on itself. So you could almost have, well, you can't have it without a nut, otherwise it'd fall out. But that's what the nylock nut's for, is to keep it from rotating in when you compress it down. So hopefully that clears everything up. Well, it's time to start putting on some stuff. I was contemplating whether or not to paint some of this before I put it on, but I've got plenty of masking tape and I got brushes, so and I want to get this thing done. I've noticed I've been working on this over a year. I bought my plywood last year on September 30th, so it's been a while. Now it's starting to get cold, so I've got my a blue tape mark here on the center line, and I got my center line located on the boat here, and I've already put in some blocks, taped them in onto the side to set my height. The blocks are the remnants of the piece I was going to use, and so I had them in here in order to determine the tail height. So I've got that set up now, and I drew in some marks. So now, like I said before, if you remember, I went and got some little number 4 screws. I was contemplating whether or not to, if I'd had some stainless pins, I would have pinned this in place, because I did some tests, and the 1/2 inch pins between going through the trim and the hull did not penetrate, but they were kind of shiny on the surface, and I didn't want to do that. I could up the pressure to drive them in farther, but then they would come through on the inside. So what I'm going to do is drill some holes. I got my drill bit sized for a little bit, about the size of the diameter of that drill, or of the screws. So now I want to drill a series of holes, probably about 6, in order to when I put the Gel Magic on, to line it back up and hold it in place, because of not having clamps out here where it's really thick in the corners. So I'm going to go ahead and put in a screw fairly close to the end. One down here in the corner. Do that on both sides. I will have to go on the inside before I paint and put a little dab of probably some sort of Gel Magic or something on it to fill the hole up so it'll sand out. And then we'll come up with we'll do a center line. So now let me go ahead and clamp the Omega piece back in place, and then now that I know where the holes are on the inside, I'll reverse drill them just a hair.